One of the Wachowski brothers at the time mentioned that people would truly comprehend what The Matrix was about only in 20 years. Coincidentally, almost a quarter of a century has passed since the premiere of the first part of the film. In certain aspects, the world is starting to resemble the one depicted in many science fiction films of the 90s. While flying cars don't dominate the sky, the world is interconnected into one vast network. Cameras are installed on every corner of major cities. The majority of the population carries an efficient, multifunctional computer in their pockets, and rapidly advancing AI is beginning to perplex humanity. Some even speculate that we are living in a revolutionary era, the complexity of which we are no longer able to comprehend. Therefore, it is worthwhile to revisit The Matrix today, pondering the origins of the ideas it encapsulates and considering whether they are even more pertinent in today's context. However, the answer we seek will be more intricate than it appears at first glance. The Matrix poses the question of whether our reality is genuine. Morpheus conveys this to Neo with the words, "What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain." Already 30 years earlier, Stanislav Lem mentioned this in the story, From the Memoirs of Ijan Tichy, in which Professor Corcoran presents the main character with a series of iron boxes containing electronic brains, each of which is convinced that it is human and is unable to realize that it is different. Let us notice that, in this perspective, the Matrix is a conglomeration of ideas that have accompanied humanity for millennia, and the simulation does not necessarily have to be an artificial virtual world. It addresses topics directly related to certain Buddhist, Gnostic, and Hindu concepts, as well as similar philosophical ideas, such as the famous allegory of the cave. For example, Mahayana Buddhism perceives our world as a product of the mind. In the book, The Teaching of Buddha, we can find the following description of the philosophy. The mind conjures up multifarious forms just as a skillful painter creates pictures of various worlds. There is nothing in the world that is not mind-created. A Buddha is like our mind, sentient beings are just like Buddhas. Therefore there is no difference among the mind, Buddhas, and sentient beings in their capability of creating all things. This is meant to suggest that the world around us is the result of the creation of the mind. Nagarjuna, one of the Buddhist philosophers, stated that life is like a dream, and enlightenment is meant to be an awakening when we reach nirvana and no longer have to participate in samsara, which is the cycle of subsequent reincarnations. Even more intriguing is the Gnostic perspective, whose present-day adherents often explicitly talk about the Gnostic matrix of consciousness. Their mythology portrays the world as a prison of minds, in which the individuals embedded in it are preyed upon by other, higher entities, archons, akin to the machines in the Matrix. In many esoteric concepts, we can also encounter spiritual beings, demons, and parasites that absorb our, understood in various ways, energy. In each of these concepts, until we awaken and experience enlightenment, we are nothing more than batteries connected to the system that binds us. In one of the scenes in The Matrix, when Morpheus tells Neo about the nature of the system he is in, although his task is to free people, until this happens, every person he passes on the street is a potential enemy, part of the system. Whether we call him an agent or a servant of the archons, the outcome will be the same. He will be an adversary to anyone seeking liberation from the mind prison. Echoes of similar ideas can be found in the recently popular simulation theory. Some scientists are exploring this topic today, and besides Elon Musk, who acknowledged that he considers it a very likely possibility, we can mention individuals such as astronomer David Kipping from Columbia University, who believes that the probability of our life being a simulation is 50%. On the other hand, Nick Bostrom, a philosopher from the University of Oxford, pointed out that if there is a civilization with incredible computing power, it is possible that they allocated a fraction of their power to create a simulation containing conscious beings, which is us. This, of course, raises the question of whether they themselves are not the result of a similar simulation, and those who created them in turn, and so on, in a scenario where each simulation includes a multiverse containing an unimaginable number of galaxies, and in some or all of them, a certain number of civilizations. However, even without delving into such deep interpretations, one can look at The Matrix directly. It is a film about humanity living under the control of machines. Artificial intelligence, a product of human civilization, has taken control of the world. As Agent Smith recalls, "I say your civilization, because as soon as we started thinking for you it really became our civilization, which is of course what this is all about. Evolution, Morpheus, evolution, like the dinosaur. Look out that window. You've had your time. The future is our world, Morpheus. The future is our time." Note that Smith is not talking here about a war that resulted in the ultimate enslavement of humanity. According to him, people lost control much earlier when they handed over the reins of their world to computers. This would suggest that the later war, in which people deluded themselves into thinking they could win against machines, was ostensibly a manifestation of agency and rebellion. However, in reality, people were already living in the illusion of their control over the world, not realizing that they had long since lost it to the machines. Similarly, in the plot of the films, Morpheus and Neo believe that they are rebelling against the system. However, let's note that even they do not understand what the Matrix truly is. In the world created by the film, Morpheus is a puppet playing the role of a guide for the next tool, which is Neo. The real meaning of the Matrix is narrated by both Agent Smith and later its creator, the architect. They both mention versions of the simulation, of which only the last one, replicating the real world, turned out to be the one that most of the humans powering the cities did not reject. The others, like the world of despair and the world of bliss, were quickly exposed as illusions. The simulation of the real world from the turn of the 20th and 21st centuries, with all its shadows and highlights, was so well crafted that only a few entities rejected it. Zion, the free city of humans, serves a similar role to a special Windows folder, a recycle bin, into which these outtakes are gathered, and the chosen one is a tool to initiate another bin after the previous one has been cleared by the machines. The true driving forces of the film are not Neo, but the Oracle and the Architect, and secondly, the simulation is not limited to the digital world. It is just a part of a much larger system, the prison of minds, in which, thanks to the plan of these two driving forces, all people find themselves, exists regardless of whether they are trapped in the Matrix or in their free city. The real simulation and prison do not necessarily consist of the framework of the computer program or other factors through which the system operates, but rather the system itself and its ideas. This brings us to another interpretation of the Matrix as a social commentary. As Morpheus put it, the Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. The motifs from the film are often perceived as a critique of the contemporary capitalist system, reducing humans to the role of cogs in the machinery of large producers and corporations. However, as with all Hollywood blockbusters with such a message, this presents a certain problem. Let's recall that the almost mandatory reading for actors participating in the production of the first film was Jean Baudrillard's book, Simulacra and Simulation, which encompasses many ideas later transformed into the central themes of the film. Baudrillard analyzes works by Philip K. Dick and films like Apocalypse Now to acquaint the reader with concepts of reality's deconstruction. Interestingly, the author himself, despite invitations from the Wachowskis, showed no interest in being involved in the film's production, expressing a rather critical view of the work. In one interview, he even states that, "The Matrix is surely the kind of film about the Matrix that the Matrix would have been able to produce." The journalist interviewing him astutely remarks, "It is rather shocking to see that, henceforth, all American marketing successes, from The Matrix to Madonna's new album, are presented as critiques of the system which massively promotes them." Years later, in the fourth installment of The Matrix, Lana Wachowski spends the first half of the film providing a meta-commentary, seemingly referencing this type of opinion, making the fourth part even more akin to meta-parody than a film treated entirely seriously. Considering all of this, one might infer that perhaps a rather universal message conveyed by The Matrix is that people, on various fronts, live in a world of illusions. No matter which perspective we adopt, metaphysical, political, economic, the initial, most apparent interpretation of these realities may not be the true one. Instead, they are mere illusions that prompt you to experience and take interest in their seemingly significant elements, which, in reality, hold little importance for the functioning of the entire system. Perhaps today, we are particularly living in a world of illusions. We concern ourselves with issues that seem real to us, that is, those with a tangible impact on our lives. Let's take notice of the fervor with which we engage in the communication buzz on social media. We get emotionally invested in scandals that exist solely on Twitter, lasting no longer than a few hours. We worry about comments that were not meant seriously, and whose authors would never express them face to face. In other words, things that are much less genuine than our personal interactions with loved ones and friends. Therefore, the question that The Matrix might pose even more fittingly, 20 years after its premiere, could be, is what you experience every day truly authentic? If you found this video interesting, please share it and help reaching more audience with its message. If you don't want to miss any further episodes, subscribe and allow notifications.